The last time I tried to do a comparison between Z Fold 4 and Z Fold 5, I filmed it, but never published it. It was even hard to write a script for two products that looked nearly identical, shared dated cameras, and only varied in the hinge. Surely, that alone was important, but not enough to be the only reason why anyone should upgrade. If you were to read then the comments of my recent Unpack Hands-On, it seems like if the sentiment is shared. It's pretty easy to simply judge a book by its cover and assume the visuals are enough to call the 2024 updates iterative. But after using the new batch for a week, let's just say this time I actually do want to publish a video, but for odd reasons. On one corner, we have the Galaxy Z Fold6, what Samsung calls as the ultimate foldable powered by Galaxy AI, and then on the other, we have last year's Galaxy Z Fold5, what the company called as the device to unfold your world back when AI wasn't really as much of a thing. The question left is if it's really worth it to consider either the old or the new, and especially when software updates have treated the old ones so well. I'm Jaime Rivera with Pocketnow, and it's time for another comparison. Let's talk Samsung Galaxy Z Fold6 versus Galaxy Z Fold5. Smartphone iteration is this very interesting spectrum where, like cars, you really can't reinvent the wheel all the time. Thing is, let's just say the Z Fold 6 is far closer to where Chinese competitors have taken the form factor, and that's mainly why this comparison matters. Visually, it's really more than just about the finish. Surely the Z Fold 6 looks a tad more modern thanks to its flat rails all over, along with the flat front and back versus the curvier and shinier Z Fold 5. And sure, even stacked next to each other, it's hard to tell major differences, but the newer model is a millimeter shorter and thinner, 3 millimeters wider, and then what matters most is how this feels when you hold them. The Z Fold 6 is a whopping 14 grams lighter, and Samsung clearly did some magic with the weight distribution because it feels so much better to hold than last year's model. I can't even say it's a difference in materials as they're both Gorilla Glass Victus 2 and Armor aluminum, so let's thank the more efficient hinge for the benefits. About my only complaint is that neither phone is meant to live without a case, as the wobble on the table is just as bad, but I'll give the Z Fold 6 more points for its more modern approach to the darker camera rings. Both outer screens are also nearly identical, at least when it comes to specifications, but then the newer model is a millimeter wider, and while that might not sound like much, the change to the shorter design and wider aspect ratio means the metrics are the same, but the feel is different. It's still not Honor or OnePlus territory, but a step in the right direction where the Z Fold 6 beats the Fold 5. I'll admit I do like the new boxier design overall, as it does lend to a more symmetrical notepad feel that does look more sophisticated. Now, once you flip them open, the small change on the outer screen compounds to an extra 2.6 millimeters on the inside. I wouldn't call any phone a winner when it comes to display quality or colors, as they're technically the same panel, and even features like S Pen support are exactly the same. What Samsung did here is invest in adding new layers to the panel on the Z Fold 6 to make it stronger and reducing the crease as a result, and sure, some of it is still here as you really can't defy physics, but it's so much better than before. Also, these new matte rails do a far better job at making the experience less distracting.
Bottom blended with a composite material in between to keep it light.
That said though, I wouldn't say speakers received a major improvement to how good they were already on last year's model.
You're thinking they look a lot like last year, but can I just say the visual hardware...
Now, once you look into internals, the lines get a little blurred out. See, the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 for Galaxy is claimed to be a better fit for AI tasks, but I've proved in separate videos how the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 for Galaxy is almost as good. RAM options are the same, and the storage options and speeds are also the same. Even the battery size and charging speeds are identical. Now, what you should care about is that the GPU is miles better on the new chip, along with the vapor chamber changes to the new model, and here you get dust resistance ratings versus only water resistance on last year's model. I also wouldn't look into major differences when it comes to software experiences, and I'm going to call that a good thing, sort of. Long gone are the days where Samsung would take forever on updating its older phones or leave features for only the new ones. The Z Fold5 received all the Galaxy AI updates just weeks after they launched on the Galaxy S24, and they work great. What I can tell you is that the Z Fold6 is faster at carrying out some of these tasks given the added processing power, and obviously having the newer phone means you'll be first in line for whatever next updates come, along with getting an additional step in the 7 years of improvements. The Z Fold6 does have some new generative AI tricks up its sleeve, and the updated options to use multiple screens for translations are pretty good. But then again, I wouldn't call it an edge over the old phone if you were most likely going to get these updates soon. Both phones continue to bring one of my favorite approaches to a foldable, with the optional dock at the bottom and the side menus for quick access, along with the denser grid of icons. Software is just a spot where I really can't call out a winner. Now, over the last week that I've been using the Z Fold6, and obviously the near year that I used the Z Fold5, I've got to say that my experience does feel different. The lighter build on the newer model just feels so much better in day-to-day use. I wouldn't call either phone better than the other when it comes to phone calls, though I do notice a marginal improvement in endurance on the newer phone. These are both two-day phones in absolutely every way, and that's interesting given their not necessarily larger power pack. Usually, the tiebreaker in any comparison is the camera, but then again, aside from the ISP updates on the chips, Samsung didn't bring much of a change here. Yes, we do have a new ultra-wide sensor once you look into the spec sheet, but that's really about it. The rest of the sets of cameras are generations old, which is rather unfortunate with such a major camera hump in addition to such a major price tag. Now, when it comes to photos during the day, the differences are subtle. I noticed the Z Fold6 follows on a more contrasty look that we saw with the Galaxy S24 series, where the Z Fold5 is just a tad brighter in certain scenarios, even if not to the point of looking washed out. I just feel the newer phone has a bit more character. Now, do I see improvements on the new ultra-wide? Not really. Would I consider these good photos? Sure, they're Galaxy territory. Now, results at night are then mostly the same, with differences in the Z Fold6 just being slightly faster at taking the shot, but it's not like if I feel there's an improvement in quality. Each phone just takes the time it needs to pull in as much light as possible, even if I'd say the ultra-wide is pretty much useless on both phones in low light. Now, selfies and portraits are nearly the same, though I like that the Z Fold6 is no longer bringing beauty modes on by default, where the Z Fold5 has even re-enabled them on a recent software update, and I had to switch them back off. They're okay, but neither is my favorite. Sadly, video is then not either phone's territory. Results are okay, but not the kind I trust because of the warping as you walk and just the quality of the bitrate overall, even if you select to go higher. It gets the job done, but it's no iPhone B camera that could be recommended. Same thing with selfie video, where the over-sharpening is just a bit overbearing along with the rolling shutter. As most foldables, both these phones are just okay, but definitely not flagship video territory like the regular flat slabs that are a lot less expensive. And sure, you get some folding benefits, but let's be real. They're just okay and forgettable. To conclude, let's just say this is one of those weird comparisons that I'm actually glad I did. The Galaxy Z Fold5 I used here is actually a device I personally bought last year while taking advantage of the trade-in deal, so I don't need to convince you that I do believe in this form factor. It would be easy for me to just sit here and tell you that the changes aren't enough for me to spend more on the new one, but after using the Z Fold6 for a week, I'll admit I have no regrets. The Fold6 is much lighter, easier to hold and use for prolonged periods of time, and that alone is enough for a guy like me that uses this as a pure workhorse. I love the peace of mind of dust resistance for the first time in a foldable, in addition to more protective layers on the screen to spare me from any drama. I like being first at the new Galaxy AI features as well. Overall, if it were my money, I seriously do feel the changes have been delightful enough for me to consider it. Now, would I recommend that you upgrade? Well, if you're coming from a Z Fold 4 or beyond, then sure, you should totally do it. This new phone is miles better than those. Now, if you're coming from the Z Fold 5, I'd only do so if I could take advantage of Samsung's trade-in deals or if your carrier is doing some major discounts. I wouldn't call either of these phones the best foldables in the market right now, but there are a ton of reasons why I prefer the full Samsung ecosystem over the rest. So for me, the Z Fold 6, under the right conditions, is totally a solid buy. Let me know if you agree with my assessment in the comments down below, and while you're at it, follow us on social media and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this one. You can also follow me on my personal handles to see me actually prefer the newer phone this time. Please give this video a thumbs up if you like what you saw. I'm Jaime Rivera. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you on the next one.